right, so as I said, we are joined by the one and only Eddie Alvarez. Eddie, that is quite the backdrop you got there, brother. Look at all that stuff. Come on.
Oh man, yeah, there's a lot of years. I played the time game. I know if I just stayed in long enough, I'd get something.
Yeah, man, that is quite the cachet of belts and awards and stuff like that. Out of all of that back there, what's your most prized possession?
I had a mug. It was the best dad mug. So no, but yeah, I think UFC Gold was awesome. I got badgered about it for years. No matter what title I won, no matter where I went, or no matter who I beat outside the promotion, people would just say, "Hey, you can never do it here. You can never do that." So it's almost like I was obligated to try to go there and win it in order to like. I just felt the need to have to do that in order to cement something, you know.
Eddie, before we even get into the X's and O's of the fight coming up and stuff like that, I mean, did you watch yesterday? What's going on? Are we happy with what went down yesterday with the birds?
Yeah, boy. You know, Mark Henry always gets on me because I don't become a monster fan until we start winning in the playoffs.
Yeah,
and he's like, you don't know shit about football, and the truth is, I don't. But
yeah,
I always want Philadelphia to win. We watched the game last night. I don't know a lot of players. I don't watch a lot of sports, to be honest with you.
Dude, I'm the same as you, Eddie. Don't worry. I want everybody to win. I'm Philly through and through, but we got other things going on. We did a sport on our own. You're still doing it, so it's like I ain't got time to memorize the whole roster. Do you know what I mean?
No. And I just want more importantly, I just want Mark Henry's Bills to lose, and I want Philly to keep winning so I can just fuck with them throughout the playoffs.
There you go.
Let me ask, for those people that don't know, they probably do. You're both from Philadelphia, two of the most prolific fighters to come from the city. Do you guys know each other? Do you have a relationship? I'm unaware. Pardon me.
We trained like early on. I didn't. Eddie was in Florida for a long time. I was in Daniel Gracie's gym for a while, but then for a while I went and I was training with Mark Henry and all those guys. And Eddie has punched me in the face and slammed me to the mat many a time.
We went at Paul. Honestly, whenever I'd hit Paul, I'd yell anger because I knew he was coming at me. and he was too predictable because he would get so angry when you hit him. But it was always good training sessions. And he would come up Ricardo Almeida's, and he was working with us extensively until he went back down to Philly and started working with them guys there. But we had some fun rounds for sure.
Yeah. I'm gonna hear some of those stories one day, because even though I've never trained with Paul, we've done this once or twice over the years.
Yeah,
in the commentary. I may or may not have had Paul Felder in my face at 4 a.m. after tons of whiskey.
Oh my God! Well, and you know what though? That was all. That was my fault, because Mike, from the beginning of that night, this is years ago in London, and he told me I don't do I can't do shots of whiskey, and me pushed him, and before you know it, I'm talking about he's not that tall, messing with him. He's making fun of my nickname, and then Laura Senko, thank God, gets in between the two of us, and it's all been water under the bridge since.
Yeah, Mike Mike likes to fuck with people. I mean, you're an expert with people. You're an expert at it. You should be from Philadelphia, to be honest with you.
Well, do you know what? I always say this. I was having this conversation on the plane because I'm in Colombia right now. People on the East Coast, I have a much more affinity with them. I just get along with them way easier. They just seem more like English people. You know what I mean? The sense of humor is very, very similar. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that. Eddie Alvarez, the former UFC lightweight champion of the world. You've got a big fight coming up against Jeremy Stephens. You were the lightweight champion. So we're going to ask you about the big title fight this weekend as well. But do you mind, Eddie, and I hope this doesn't seem disrespectful, just going back to UFC, was it 205 when you fought Conor McGregor? Just talk about that whole experience for me.
When in 205, when I fought Conor, I was coming off the title when I won the world title against Dos Anjos. And I think for me, it wasn't so much the fight with Conor that was overwhelming. It was my change in lifestyle, being UFC champion, that was overwhelming for me. If I could go back in retrospect, I would have given myself a little bit of time to digest it before I actually fought as a defending champion. the whole whirlwind of media, of obligations and all that. I never wanted it. I wanted the money and I wanted the belt. I never understood, I didn't understand that world of media, of obligations, of having to be somewhere and talk and talk and talk about the fight. So Conor was excellent at that. He was well trained at it. And, you know, it's something that I guess I forgave myself, but in my competitive career, it's very difficult because although I know it's not who I am, how I competed in this one night, it is how you're defined by a large audience because maybe that audience only seen you that one time. So it's I'll never be able to truly digest it in a good way, but it happened. It was an experience I had, and like the fight week was fun, the build up was fun. I would have liked to compete better, you know?
Yeah.
Do you know what? Let me just jump in there real quick, Paul. I know exactly what you're talking about, Eddie, because when I fought George St. Pierre, I didn't have him talking shit, but the sheer magnitude of the event, I was also a champion as well. And, you know, I come from a very working class background. So it felt weird. There was a little bit of like imposter syndrome, perhaps, or whatever. Obviously, I'd fought all over the world and I'd been main events, but never something that kind of spectacle. And even though I was super experienced, I kind of feel that the moment did kind of affect me as well.
Right. Honestly, I just created a training facility out in Bucks County, PA, and we do like a part of me training the new up and coming kids and the new up and coming crop is going to largely be putting them in weird situations, putting them where their families come in and watch them spar, or maybe today we're going somewhere foreign. We're not training in our gym, and it's a skill. What I realized is that's a skill, and if you don't train it, and then you have to get ready for it, it's not good. You could lose a very big fight in a very big way. So like it's kind of like one of them skills that you don't know you have to have. And I will be teaching the next up and coming crop like how to deal with them uncomfortable situations or media or just being somewhere different and very uncomfortable and just getting training in that, you know.
I think we can see the Irish Dragon coming out right now. Everything okay with you there, Paul?
Dude, my volume right now is turning itself down on its own no matter what I do right now. I don't know why it is doing that. It keeps muting itself.
Oh, shit. Well, I'm very sorry to hear that. See what you can do. Eddie, obviously you're fighting Jeremy Stephens. Now you're in Bareknuckle. Talk to me about Bareknuckle. How did you get into that? And like, what do you make of it? You know, because obviously on the outside, it looks very gruesome and all the rest of it. There's a ton of blood. And obviously the knuckles can cut when you don't have gloves on them. How have you found that transition from MMA to Bareknuckle?
Bareknuckle's unique. And, it's unique in that the hands aren't wrapped. And a lot of times when the hands are wrapped, you can make a good solid cast on even a broken hand and still be able to fight. But with Bareknuckle, you have to punch correctly the same way you would have to run correctly if you had bare feet. But you have to punch correctly and you have to pick your shots. The shots can't be winging, aimless shots like some guys do. They have to be placed correctly, and a lot of it's technique and placement. That way, you're hitting the soft tissues. You're not hitting someone's forehead and things like that. So, I like it. I like the nuances of it, and I was instrumental in helping it get approved in Philadelphia, and that was my kind of my dream was to bring Bareknuckle to Philadelphia and to a big, large stadium like the Wells Fargo.
Nice. Well, congrats. I mean, Jeremy Stephens, we know he's going to bring it because he's always a lot of fun, you know, and it's funny because, you know, I mentioned Conor McGregor there. He kind of has a little thing with Conor McGregor being the who the f- is that guy as well. Conor McGregor's involved in BKFC though, right? Have you run into him at all?
We haven't spoke about it yet. He was at my first Bareknuckle fight, the Chad Mendez fight, as a spectator, and I think that's kind of when he decided, like, I need to be a part of this sport, and it's when I decided, hey, this thing is going to take off, and I knew that right after that fight because at that time, Kamaru Usman, Justin Gaethje, Cowboy Cerrone, you name it, we were entertaining some of the most entertaining fighters in the world. And when I got to sit back and watch the fights, there's nothing really like it. The pacing, the chaos, the speed of them. They're only 2-minute rounds, so you don't really get tired. They're really fun.
Yeah. No, I've never been to one, but I do want to check one out because that's all I hear. I mean, I've seen some of the videos of the crowds and stuff. I see people losing their minds and whatnot. McGregor does a good job of hyping the crowd up as well. He did when he was out in Spain anyway. So yeah.
Well, what are you doing on January 25th? I don't think there's a UFC, so you got no excuse, Mike.
January 25th. Do you know where I'll be? I'll be on a bloody plane to Saudi Arabia.
Oh man,
I know. I gotta get my drinking in now. I'll be on my way to Saudi Arabia, then off to Sydney. Obviously 2-minute rounds, punching only, boxing only. How old are you now, Eddie?
I'm 41. Yes, not yesterday. January 11th.
How's the body feel?
Better than ever.
Oh, nice.
You know what, Mike? We're a lot in common in this. I was able to last so long in the sport. One, I never wrestled in college, and I think that takes years off someone's longevity. I think it's great to have as a fighter, but I also think it has its negatives, and that it's so much wear and tear. Two, I never did a single steroid or enhancement my entire life, and I think that is one of the biggest things that speed up you being out the door early in your career. Never did an enhancement ever. And I always, whenever I got injured or even remotely injured, I scaled back and I just said, no, I'm not going to fight, or I'm going to let this injury get good. Then 3 things allowed me to fight 21 years now, fresh and healthy. My resting heart rate is 37 beats a minute. I'm young as I've ever been, but more than ever, I have the gratitude and excitement inside of my training camps. And that's kind of what I gauge is the energy and excitement that I have to the fight that I'm about to fight. And if that wears and goes down, then I know I need to scale back and not fight so much. So that's greater than ever. So I'm excited about this fight. I'm excited about the opponent they put in front of me.
Eddie, 21 years, man. That's incredible. That really is such an achievement. People have no idea. I mean, I had a pretty long career, but 21 years. I mean, that is insane. I mean, congrats on a legendary career, everything you've achieved. I think you brought up a good point about the longevity, because all of my injuries, as I say, I'm in Colombia getting stem cells on my neck from wrestling. It all comes from bloody wrestling. My son was a college wrestler. He had to cut it short because he had about 4 surgeries. And then in the end, he had to weigh up, is this really worth it, having surgeries at such a young age? Hold on. Yeah. The Irish Dragon is back. Are you with us, brother?
My volume is not turning itself. I don't know what ghost just entered the house right now, but it didn't want me having this conversation for some reason. I'm sorry if I missed anything good there, guys.
Nah, it's all good, Paul. I got time, so we're all good.
Eddie was just telling us 21 years as an athlete. So the point I was going to say, Eddie, so now preparing for bare knuckle, even though it's a tough sport and wildly exciting, way less wear and tear on the body, right?
It's people laugh, but I'm like, these camps are so easy compared to a UFC. Forget about a UFC title fight. It's not even comparable. But a UFC regular feature fight where it's 3 5-minute rounds, way, way more difficult than a bare knuckle training camp. And the best thing of all is I know there's a great chance that I'm going to get through the entire camp. In MMA, I don't know. I start the camp and I cross my fingers and I go, man, I hope I don't get in a wrestling exchange or a kicking exchange and I twist something up. So there's a little more predictability in the training. You have a little bit more control,
And Eddie, when it comes to a training camp for bare knuckle, right, it's totally different than a boxing camp, right? Boxing, there's gloves on. The range is totally different. So what does training camp look like? Obviously, mostly hands. There's a little bit of clinch because you guys can kind of grab and dirty box a little bit. What's sparring like? Like, how do you guys prepare for that kind of range? Because even in a street fight, you know how it is. You've been in many. It's that range is a little scary because every punch that lands, even though the knockout power might be a little different because it's bare knuckle, each shot kind of, it stings a little more because it's straight knuckles.
You're 100% right. So there's no way to spar bare knuckle. Like you have to put gloves on, right? And a lot of the guys I spar with are pro boxers. They won't even spar unless you put 16-ounce gloves on. So like if I told them, hey, we're going to do lighter gloves, they're like, well, I'm not sparring you. So if you want to go with high level guys and do it professionally, you're going to put 16-ounce gloves on. You're going to put your headgear on, mouthpiece, and do it the right way. So my sparring is done traditional boxing. Everything outside of sparring is done with just my wraps, some kind of wrap, and I even wrap my knuckles so I just don't break anything open.
Save them a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, because if you break it open, then it gets annoying throughout the whole camp, infection, stuff like that. So I wrap, and then I still get to feel the lightness. I get to feel the range, and you truly do fight different when you have nothing on your hands. And from having something on your hands, when you don't, it almost feels like a knife fight. Like I can't even get touched, or else that touch could mean the fight's completely over. The gash you can get, or the broken hand. So you have to be very selective with your shots. You gotta aim small, miss small, and stay a lot tighter than you normally do.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, it kind of. I'm not discrediting the sport, but it's kind of similar to a street fight. If two guys in the street that knew how to use the hands, they're going to be throwing fists. And then to your point, look at Luke Rockhold against Mike Perry. He was doing pretty good, but one crack bust all of his teeth, and that's it. The fight was over. As Paul just mentioned there, you're from Philadelphia, the mean streets of Philadelphia. And he said you've had a few street fights over the years. And when you were saying that, I was thinking back, like, you do have that kind of level of anxiety. I haven't had a street fight in goddamn years, but there must be a lot of adrenaline when you're in there, Eddie.
Well, yeah. So we don't even line up across the ring from each other where the ref says, "Go ahead." You're right two or 3 foot in front of the guy. My foot's on the line. Your foot's on the line, and you're if I'm like this,
so you're in slapping distance.
Like,
toe the line, baby. Toe the line, right? Isn't that what it says?
Go, and then you fucking off.
And you're like, you feel nuts. Like you're about to fly.
I watched one of the cards not too long ago. There was no UFC on and stuff like that. I was like, I'll check this out. And you can tell, Eddie, too, there's significantly, you can see who's the boxers and who are guys that kind of got into it to just be a bit of a brawler. And it's night and day difference. How do you see this fight between you two guys going? Because you both know how to throw hands, and you can tell throughout these cards, as it gets to the main event, it gets slicker, and guys use their jab. The guys that seem to use their jab effectively tend to do really well. Do you feel like that's even more so in bare knuckle to have a solid jab and movement? Because isn't your ring that you guys are fighting, it kind of almost puts you right on top of each other as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, I got bare knuckle to put an official size ring in my facility, so I was able to train in it for the last 2-3. And it's not even official size. Actually, the one I got is 15 foot. So you can't. Right now in my training, I'm throwing 75 to 80 punches around on average in a 2-minute round. And so we're forced to throw high volume, forced to train at a high level. That way, when I do get into the official size one, 22 foot, it feels like a day off almost.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sorry. Restate your question again.
Just
Paul?
Talking about the jab, like when I was watching the guys on the bare knuckle card, the ones that seemed to do really well, that had the better skills, man, they just used that jab, and because it's so effective with the bare knuckle. If you're sticking that straight shot right in somebody's face, they're just getting busted up. So
a lot of and over the past 2 or 3 years, a lot of my training, I've been throwing away hooks. I rather choose, and I think even for MMA, this is better. I started doing it in my MMA fights, is I chose the hard jab over my hook. So I would throw 1-2-1s rather. I just threw hooks away completely because I felt like it was better, not just for bare knuckle, but for MMA. I felt like a lot of guys, when you go 1-2, their natural reaction is the hook's coming. And then I would start landing these shots right up the middle. I'll cut their nose, cut their eye. But also with the one, what would happen is when they were countering to throw the overhand, the one would go king and I would catch their overhands.
Yeah.
So it was allowing me to be offensive, but also be defensive at the same time. So I kind of threw away hooks and I choose to do a lot of ones after all my combinations. 1-2-3-1, 1-2-1, just always making sure I'm finishing with a hard jab. That way I'm able to be offensive and defensive at the same time.
Yeah, I was saying that Saturday night when I was commentating, Roman Kopylov was pumping a jab out.
Yeah.
And I was stating how with a good, hard, fast, solid jab, you can really bust people's faces up, smash their nose and break their teeth in, stop them from breathing, knock them down, do a lot of damage with the jab. You mentioned they put a ring in your place. It seems like the Bareknuckle BKFC really take care of you guys. And from what I hear, and I don't expect any numbers, but apparently you guys are getting taken care of financially very well as well.
Well, I'm at a weird spot, Mike, where I just don't compete unless I'm getting taken care of.
Rightly so.
I just won't fight, man. I've been blessed with fighting. I've assigned some really good contracts, and I was able to win some world titles. And if you see me fighting, I'm making a lot of money because I just won't fight. I have a lot of great things in my life where I can make money, but I love to compete. I really do think at this point, competing is the best thing for me, and I'm slowly weaning myself off of this character of a fighter, and I've been doing that for years now. But as long as there's a couple good fights out there, and I could put in a good, energetic, fun camp for myself, I'll do it. But very well. Bare knuckle. It's like I said, it's not one of them things like if I go to fight, I'm getting paid. If I'm in a promotion, they're paying.
Yeah.
Or else I'm not there.
And along the lines of you talking about kind of slowing it down and only doing it when it really means something to you and you can get a camp together. I got to ask, when you switched over to start doing some of this bare knuckle stuff, Eddie, you're a family guy. You talked about the best dad mug being the best trophy that you had up there for a while. What does the family think? What does the wife think of it versus the stress of an MMA situation versus the stress of bare knuckle? Even though you talk about the camps being a lot easier physically on you, it does seem more extreme, even if it really isn't once you're in there and you've been in there a couple times. But what was it like on the family when you're like, all right, babe, I'm going to go do some bare knuckle now?
Yeah, it's not good, right? Because we've been talking about the idea of retirement for the last 5 years, when it's going to come, what's going to happen. And you would think if that's what you're doing, you're going to wean yourself off to something slightly less dangerous. But I'm headed to knife fight soon. I don't know where I go from here. The sky's the limit. You're
going to be on Squid Game soon. You're going to be doing Squid Game soon.
But you're going, Mike.
No, I was going to say, I mean, obviously I'm not directing this towards your wife because I've never met her or anything, but my wife was the same way. When are you going to retire? When are you going to retire? It's like, babe, I make a lot do doing this, right?
I'm getting paid.
This lifestyle that we have has been built with these two hands.
Yeah.
And when I retire, do you know what I mean? They stop coming in.
Yeah. We all need to get ready for a significant change, since I was 20 something though, so I've read a bunch of books on finance and real estate, and I help a lot of other fighters, but I was always afraid to be poor at the end of this. So very early, right around 23, I started a real estate company. I started buying rental properties. I have Airbnbs, I have bar restaurants, commercial properties. Wow. So with all my fight checks since I was very young, I'm not a big car guy, jewelry guy, anything like that. I just started buying bricks and real estate and investments. And luckily, I was able to kind of do that over the years because I never thought this was going to work out. I'm going to be honest. I thought almost every fight, hey, this will probably be your last one. Don't f up the money. This will probably be your last one. Don't f up the money. So it just, it lasted a lot longer than what I thought it would, but I never relied on it to be a real career.
It's interesting hearing that because I did the same thing, but a lot of fighters, what they're like. They get a little bit of money in the pocket, and like a lot of athletes in general, they think it's going to last forever, and then the checks stop coming in. They bought a bloody stupid Porsche or whatever fancy car it is, and then they're broke. It's like, guys, what are you doing? Yeah. So you're an example to a lot of fighters out there, Eddie. I would ask you for your prediction, but I know you're just going to say you're going to knock him out. But what are we saying? Round 1, round 2?
Look, Jeremy's tough, man. I didn't put anything past Jeremy, and I don't know what one I'm going to get. I don't know what guy I'm going to get, a motivated one. I watched this fight with Jose Aldo, his boxing fight. It was really good. If he comes in prepared like that, I mean that's one of his better performances I've seen. Straight striking. So it could be anything, but and this is nothing personal to Jeremy. The way I've been preparing for this fight, I cut out anything that I thought wouldn't serve me for the last 3-4 months. The focus I've had, the training partners I brought in, I don't think there's going to be a man that comes through the tunnel at the Wells Fargo on the 25th that's going to be able to fuck with me. I sincerely feel that way, and it's nothing against Jeremy. It's just if Jeremy drops out and they bring another guy, I feel just as bad for that guy. I've been preparing in a way I'm just excited about going out and doing what I've already been doing for the last 2-3 months.
And how awesome is it, Eddie, to be back home for one of these things, to be main event of a card at Wells Fargo in Philly? I mean, that's got to be. When's the last time you fought that big in your hometown?
Once ever. So Bellator
years ago, right?
Bought Roger Huerta to the Liacourse 14 years ago, and we sold out the Liacourse. There was like 1,000 orange shirts, and I stopped Roger in a second, and there's probably a good chance I'll probably do the same thing that Jeremy. I'll feel the energy of Philadelphia, and it's all going to go to Jeremy. It'll all get directed to Jeremy.
Can I help you, Harrington?
Yeah, well, I wanted to ask. I have a very Philadelphia-specific question for Eddie Alvarez.
I don't know if you know this. We're in the middle of an award-winning interview here, but sure, just butt in. Feel free.
I was going to ask, how does this compare to fighting behind the White Castle at Erie and Torresdale across from North Catholic?
No, wait. I know I got some North Catholic stuff up here somewhere. Here we go. Hold on.
What does that mean, Harrington? What are you talking about?
So my buddy, Danny Weeks, a North Castle alum, he said, that was the biggest thing to do was be after school. You would go and see Eddie fight in the White Castle across the street.
Is that a wrestling thing?
No way.
What your bare knuckle record was in behind the White Castle.
It wasn't, dude. We never scheduled fights. They weren't it wasn't like, hey, we schedule a fight. It was like, Philadelphia is very like what Mike does. Mike fucks with people and then they fuck with him back and then you guys are fighting. So Philly's very much like that. Like if you go out and maybe you're not looking for trouble and maybe you're not running from it, for sure you're going to get into it. So as a young kid, I didn't start fights, but for sure if one happened, I was really excited about it.
Yeah. I think most of us will probably agree with that as well. Yeah. What year is that, Eddie, that Harrington's talking about there?
So I was in high school from 99 to 2001.
Right.
And 99 to 2001.
The Underground King. It's going to make a good book one day.
Was born. Yeah, dude. I think it'd be really cool, huh?
Yeah.
Book. Little Netflix.
Yeah, exactly. We've all got to do it.
Dude, and you know what? I grew up in Kensington. Rocky was filmed where I was born. So, growing up, where Rocky was filmed was my streets. There's boxing gyms on every corner. It's like, if I had to describe it, it's kind of like the way Dagestan is the wrestling. Kensington was the boxing in the 90s. There was boxing gyms everywhere. So, it was like, that was our culture, you know?
And Kensington, that's where it's totally messed up now, right? That's like, I see videos on YouTube, everyone's cracked out and on bloody fentanyl and stuff. That's Kensington, right?
That's Kensington, yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
It's rough.
Yeah.
It's rough.
Paul, yeah. I think actually Paul's old gym, they used to have to go underneath the L to get to their old gym. And because I went back down there to train with them, I'm like, why the you guys here?
Yeah, because next door to us was
everything to get out of there, and these guys are like moving in.
Bro, I every time I had to go down there, I'm like, why did he pick this spot of all places? But they had the boxing gym. It's not there anymore, but Boots and Bozy and all those guys. I don't know if you remember. Remember, you went across the hall, next to the gym, and they had a boxing gym right next. We had MMA in our spot in the basement gym right there in North Philly. And then right across the way was a boxing gym. And sometimes we'd go in there. And I'm telling you, man, even when those guys were taking it easy on you, like if you're boxing in that part of town,
It's the best work, right?
You're getting
you got to go to the worst. You got to go to the worst areas to get the best work. That's normally how it is, and I'm guessing in any part of the world it's probably that way. You're going to get your best rounds in the worst areas.
Yeah.
It's as a guy that grew up in the northwest of England, as a guy that grew up loving Rocky, hearing you two sitting there talking about the mean streets of Philly and the boxing gym and stuff like that, it sounds very, very cool. Like I went to some shitty little gym in the hills and stuff, you know. You guys are on the mean streets, you know. Sounds awesome. Eddie, best of luck this weekend. I've got a couple more questions for you. We've got to talk about the UFC Lightweight Championship if you've still got time. But where do people watch this fight this weekend? How did they buy the pay-per-view, all that stuff?
It'll be streamed on DAZN. It's at the Wells Fargo Center. So if you are in the Northeast, New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia, Delaware, if you're nearby, please make it. I mean, I've been in Singapore before this, so like I rarely ever get a chance. So if you ever want to get a chance to watch me fight again, please come to the fight. You definitely won't be disappointed. It's at the Wells Fargo. It's January 25th. Me and Jeremy Stevens. Jeremy don't put on boring fights, and neither do I. So please try to make it. If not, you can get it on DAZN.
Are you going, Paul?
I think I'm trying.
Sorry
to go.
Put you on the spot.
No. I've been talking about it for a while, and I hit up Cafaro too, and I think he's going to be there with you as well, isn't he? Or is he just helping you get ready?
Ryan's going to corner. No, Ryan's going to help corner. Him, Mark Henry, and Ray Robinson will be in my corner.
Oh, nice.
Right. Islam Makhachev, UFC 311, Arman Tsarukyan. What do you make of the lightweight division these days? Obviously, you were the champ. What do you think of the state of the division? And then what about this fight this weekend?
The state of the division's been great. I mean, Islam's pretty much reigning champ. He's amongst the group. We have a lot of guys who like to strike, right? You got the guys on top anyway. Mike Chandler's a great grappler, but he likes to strike. And then you got Gaethje, and then you got Poirier. Even Charles, he has great jiu-jitsu, but he likes to strike. So it just seems like a lot of divisions, the most dominant wrestler, the guy who has the distinct grappling advantages, running the division right now. And I think as far as opponents, the best guy to put in front of him to give him the most trouble, to stop that takedown and maybe take him into a little bit deeper waters, is Arman right now. So I love the matchup. I hope it turns into a fight the way the Dustin Poirier one did. I think a lot of people, including myself, didn't think Poirier would be able to drag it that far and make Islam breathe heavy and really start turning it into a fight. And I would like to see that happen with Arman, where Arman can kind of gut at them brands and maybe we could see a fourth round.
Yeah, I mean, Arman fought him. I don't know if you saw it years ago. His debut was against Islam on short notice, and he gave him trouble back then. Now, granted, he lost. It was a clear decision for Islam, but the way he was able to scramble, and he's only getting better. What do you think the approach for a guy like Arman is, though? He's a great wrestler, but obviously who do you think has the striking edge if you had to pick one, Eddie? Because I feel like Islam kind of gets discredited for his striking. He's not a bad kickboxer at all.
I think when people are gauging striking, they disregard the amount of wrestling that goes on, right? You know, if you wrestle for 5 minutes or 6 minutes, your striking significantly diminishes.
Yeah.
Your shoulders go down, your legs go. You can't do the both. You have to have a really good balance when you decide to put that game plan. So it's going to be, I honestly think we're going to end up seeing a striking fight. I think both guys, because it's a title fight, they're going to be nervous about, am I going to have energy? Am I going to have energy for the fifth round? And how do I sustain my energy all the way up until that? Well, the answer would be, less grappling. I'm not going to wrestle a strong grappler. I'm not going to be able to keep up with that pace. So I'm gonna strike, and that happens a lot with two real strong grapplers. They cancel that out. We end up having an average striking fight. But I think with these two guys, if they're only striking and no wrestling exists, I think the striking is going to look pretty sharp. I really do. Yeah. I think it's going to look good.
That's a beautiful answer, Eddie, but you still never gave us a winner.
So it's honestly really hard for me to bet against Khabib and his crew.
Yeah.
I think regardless of technique, they have a belief and a faith and a hope that I don't. It's hard to bet against it. You know what I mean? The way they compete and what they compete for. I'd say Islam because of that. But I think earlier, a couple months back, people asked me if they rematched, I'd take Arman. And I just think it's going to be a really close fight. But if I had to like gun to my head and all my money was on it, I'm going Islam just based on Khabib and their crew.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's hard to just bet against them. The momentum that they have.
I don't believe it should be a minus 400 though. I think that's crazy. This should be.
You see, Marab is plus 280 or something like that as the champ going against Umar in the co-main. Marab Dawasuli is.
That's the same thing. That's the same thing. That's going to go to a decision.
That's a good bet.
That's going to be two men. The wrestling's going to cancel each other out, and then it's going to play out on the feet more than likely. Same thing.
Yeah, and if it does, though, that's. Go ahead, Eddie.
I just think they're live dogs. I think you're right. I think Marab's a live dog, and I think Arman's a live dog. Whether they come through. So it could be one of them nights of upsets, but the odds to me are off. They're clearly off.
Yeah.
They always are. Eddie, thank you for your time. I appreciate it, buddy. I enjoyed talking to you. Congrats on all your career. 21 years at the highest level. That's unbelievable. This weekend, Wells Fargo Center. Catch it live on DAZN. Get yourself to the arena if you're in the area.
Next week, right?
Next week.
Oh, sorry. 25th. What am I saying? The 25th. Harrington, did you have a question for Eddie? Or is that the one you already asked?
Yeah, that was it. I only have the one thing. Just wanted to jump in there with that. Sorry.
Yeah, I was giving you an opportunity to ask Eddie for a couple of tickets.
Unfortunately,
if you're coming, let me know. Just text me.
This is so painful. My wife booked us flights to Austin for that weekend, and I hate her for it.
Hold on.
I guess massive fight.
I was just going to say we could go together, Harrington. Way to go, bud.
I'm so mad. I'm so mad.
So we have a guest on the show. He offers you tickets, and to his face, you won't even tell a white lie and say, "I can't." Okay, thanks. I'll see you there.
I'll fly back. Screw it.
Eddie doesn't give a fuck
on Saturday for it.
You got to get parties together, man.
Yeah,
you're right. I do.
Eddie, you're the man. Thank you very much. Congrats on everything. Good luck against Jeremy Stephens next week. And thanks again for your time.
Thank you, guys. Yeah. Love watching you both fight. Even better. Thank you, guys.
Oh, dude. I'll have to come by your gym, dude. I'll have to come by and watch some training, hang out with you guys.
Please, Paul, come show these guys. Show these young bucks a couple things, man. Please.